It's late. I just want to sit with you a bit and talk. I remember when I first moved out on my own. It was about 9 months ago, last summer. And it was my very first time moving out on my own. I had always lived with family up until that point. And it was my very first time striking out on my own. It was a new experience for me. It was something that I had to get used to very fast, but honestly, the journey was worth it. I still remember the first night that I was here by myself. My brother and my mom had been helping me move out on my own, and by the time I said goodbye to my brother at 9:30, I wanted to get some dinner because it was getting late, and I had already clocked about 10 or 11 miles on my feet that day from moving all day for like 12 hours, and I was just hungry, and I didn't have much in my pantry and my fridge to really whip something up, so I decided to go around the corner to my local Whataburger, and I just bought a sandwich and brought it back home. And I still remember that feeling of sitting there at the kitchen table with all the boxes on the floor and all the boxes on the table itself just sort of surrounding me. I remember propping up my phone on one of the boxes so I could watch a live stream. And I just sat there and I ate my dinner. And it was a surreal moment because in that moment I realized that this was my very first night on my own in my apartment, all by myself. And the thing that no one tells you is when the emotions are going to hit after something like this. Because for me, it's not really a matter of if, but when. And for me, it really struck me the first Saturday that I was there. I was standing at the kitchen counter making my sandwich for lunch. And I just started bawling. I kind of thought that it would have happened earlier, maybe even the day that I moved, but it struck me as I was spreading the peanut butter on the sandwich and getting the jelly out. It just all sort of rushed in and hit me at once, and I just started crying. And I was crying because I realized that this was it. Like, my mom wasn't going to come through that door. I wasn't going to hear the sound of the garage door opening. I wasn't going to hear the clatter of keys on the counter when she came in. It was just me. And it was just an epiphany that struck me all at once rather than spread out. So it was a new sensation. And the very next day, which was Sunday, I actually met up with my mom for a movie, and this was the first time that we had seen each other since moving. My mom had moved into her own duplex, and I had just moved into my new apartment, and this was our first time seeing each other since then. And I'll never forget when we met up at the movie theater. I remember looking at her and saying, "Well, this was fun, but are you ready to move back in together?" And it was a surreal kind of moment because, neither one of us had ever lived on our own before. This was a brand new, thing for both of us. And, another big thing that I had to get used to was grocery shopping on my own. When I lived at home, it was always sort of something that I did on the way home from work. I would always just grab groceries or whatever the house needed, and this was the very first time that I had, started going grocery shopping just for me. And so when I would go to the supermarket and walk through the aisles, it was it was a meek and shy thing for me because it was all brand new and the emotions were still very high. And it wasn't like I didn't know what I was searching for. It was just, it felt like it was the start of a brand new path and I was on it. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, it got easier. It all got easier, but I point out the grocery store because that was an area of my life that started off as this very, hesitant and shy sort of movement from me, and it quickly turned into a confident stride. So now every time I go to the grocery store, I'm not just wandering around shyly and unsure of what to do. I actually make pretty good time now when I go to the grocery store because it's just part of my weekly routine, and I allowed myself the time and the space and the grace that I gave myself to, realize that, hey, this is new. You've never done this before, truly, so give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. It does get better.